The first frost of 2025 is officially 12 weeks away, and in just 84 short days, everything that I've been growing, all the seeds I've been tending to, and all the plants I've watered through the heat, covered through the cold, will be gone. And I want to make the most of it. At the end of May, I found myself in the middle of the growing season with very little to show for it. So I've been plotting and planning and scheming ever since to try and make this fall the best fall I could possibly have. The sunflowers I planted last week desperately need to go in the ground, with another succession needing to be planted and on its way. I'm trying to fill every single nook and cranny of my garden with things that will flower and bloom before the first frost. And this week, I also have a little bit of a mission. So here's the deal. I'm trying to grow a flower business, and by the end of this month, I would like to do 3 things: launch a flower subscription, host a bouquet bar at a local business, and find at least 2 more businesses that I can deliver flowers to on a weekly basis. I already have 2 local businesses that I deliver to every Tuesday and Thursday, and then on the weekends, I also sell flowers at 2 other local businesses. So with these 3 additional sales channels, I could potentially double my flower output. So this week, I am not only trying to achieve my ultimate goal of bringing more local flowers to my little hometown, but of course, growing my flower business. So this week started off pretty slow, dark, and wet. I feel like there's like a Michael Scott type of joke in there. Monday, I was pretty much just editing last week's video. And Tuesday, I had my first flower delivery of the week, which went smoothly. And on Wednesday, it rained all day, but that is really when things kick into gear and the flower show must go on. I'm going to be so for real with you right now. I am at this huge crossroads. On the one hand, I have the business that I have built over the past 5 years, and really the product that I've built over the past 3 years, which are these punch needle kits and mug rugs and coasters. I've been doing this for 3 years. I have never done one thing for that long in my entire life. My whole life until the age of 21 was school. Every year, a new grade, a new thing. And now I'm 27 and a half, plus 2 months and 4 days. First of all, I burned myself out from that business within a year. And I've just been pushing through the burnout for the past 2 years. And I've slowly to a halt. I've slowed to a halt where I just can't get myself to do the things that are required to run that business. And initially, that brand was built on me making art. The whole thing was I wanted to be a full-time artist. And somewhere along the lines, that got completely, not even lost or forgotten, just neglected, thrown out the window.
What happened to the original plot of the movie?
And to the point where I almost don't remember what it's like to sit down and just make something to make it without filming it or thinking of it as a product. So I have to go buy flowers. I have to buy flowers, and I've been so back and forth about what I'm going to get. So I think I'm going to think about all these big topics in the car on my way, and I'll show you what I get. I'm really debating if there's Lysianthus, whether or not I get the Lizzies, and or how much I spend. Because I'm kind of trying to see, maybe I could get 90% of the flowers from my own garden. Okay, little babies, you're gonna come home with me. I got some Rudbeckia trilobia, some celosia, look at this. And this smells amazing. It's the lemon basil. It's raining, so me and the babe's gonna head home. Welcome to the fleur. It's been 2 hours. 2 hours and 39 minutes later, we have a fat bucket of flowers. Let me tell you, this is one fat bucket. Let's do it. Hey. Plant haul. Okay, I don't know what celosia this is, but it's the coxcomb coral reef-esque. And I just thought that this color would be really good because I have a lot of peach and warm color zinnias, so I thought that this would be a good transition color between the yellows of the sunflowers and the zinnias that I have. So I've got that. The water splashing. So I also have this lemon basil. So a lot of these I think can be split into multiple stems. I'm not sure if I will, but there are 10 of these. And then the final thing is this absolute behemoth. Look at this. It's taking up the whole frame. And I know that, right, hello, that like some of these can be split into multiple stems. Okay, so far I have sorted out 14 usable stems in the length that I normally use, and then we've got a bunch of these, I'll say shorties, but last week I made those cute little posy bags, inspired by Southwold. There's a letter missing. It's not Southworld, but it sounds like Southwold, but it's like British. So, and I'm American. I speak American. Not in a like I like the current. Anyways, we don't need to get political. But these are all the little ones. So I'm going to put these in their own little thing, give them a fresh snip, and these will go in my little jars for the week. There's eggs on there. Somebody lost your eggs. You forgot them on this plant. Oops, sorry. Hope nobody's looking for them. Gotta clean those up, huh? So, just about every week when I am starting seeds, I take out this. This is I would call it a seed organizer, but they're not organized. It's my seed holder. The only cubby that is organized is this, which are all of my like old seed packets that I've used. But I basically flip through this and I find the seeds that I want to start. Now, I am still relatively new to starting seeds and growing plants, specifically cut flowers. And I have found increasingly that any and all instructions on when and how I should start, specifically cool, hardy annuals and perennials, is a lie. It's a myth. I live in zone 7A or B or whatever. 7. There's the number 7 in there. I just want to quickly interject. One of the things that I've learned, and that if you're a gardener, you probably also know this, but like the USDA zones are not entirely helpful. So people who live in zone 7 can live in Virginia, New Jersey, the Pacific Northwest, like Canada. Like to say I'm in zone 7 just means that I have a minimum, like, or maximum, whatever. There's like a cold temperature that we can possibly hit in the winter, generally when my first frost is and generally when my last frost is, and it gives you no information about rainfall, humidity, heat, cold, climate. Like, it gives you no information. I live in a very mild climate. We barely ever hit our minimum cold temperatures. We barely even get hard frosts, like in general at all. So that's where I live, and that's some of the background information. So just because I live in zone 7 and you might live in zone 7 or around there does not mean that we have similar climates. And that is something that I've had to learn the hard way myself. Back to the video. And because it's so mild and we hardly ever get cold, plants that need cold to initiate flowering do not get enough of that cold time if I start them in the late winter and early spring. It's just not cold enough for long. So I think perennials and hardy annuals and things like that actually need to be started like in the fall. That's my theory. That's my thought. So this week I have quite a few things that I'm going to be trying, because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I already started some Linaria or money plant, but I want to start another batch because I kind of messed them up. I have Campanula. Now I have Campanula, I have that, and I also have stock. These are two things that I am totally just like trying. I have no idea. The other thing that's a factor is that when you quote should or quote shouldn't start things depends on the weather. And the weather is something that is becoming increasingly harder and harder to predict. might as well try. I have some seeds in there. I'm not going to use all of them, but might as well. And then I have my campanula, which I think I'm going to try to overwinter, but I also think because of where we live, or where I live, not we, you're not here, it's just me. But because of where I live, this might bloom sooner and I might mess it up, so I'm just going to give this one a go anyways. And then I have some other things. I have some sweet peas, which I'm going to just start sweet peas, like batches of them. My plan is to just start batches of sweet peas every few weeks from now until my first frost and beyond, to just try and start to figure out when is the best time to plant sweet peas in my garden, in my yard where I live. I'm going to start all of these seeds today. Yeah, and then tomorrow morning is early flower delivery. Today, I'm seed starting. How do we feel about pelleted seed, y'all? I have not had good luck with it. That's about it, y'all. That's about it. I did my morning delivery, made the bouquets this morning, and I also have a meeting today at 3 p.m., which I cannot forget about. A meeting with another local place, organization, business, etc. for potential flowers. So that's exciting, which means I need to bring them flowers as well. And that's really what's on the agenda. It's what's on the agenda today. It's very like cloudy. It rained all day yesterday, so probably just edit some videos and do other stuff for my other job. But yeah, that's what's on the schedule today. Question is, which sunflower? Got the gold light or the plum? Okay, we're gonna do the really tiny one. Cute. So my first batch of seeded cell tray sunflowers are ready to go in the ground, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about where I live and my growing conditions, because I feel like that helps explain why I'm doing some of the things that I'm doing, and also the fact that these videos are on quite a bit of a delay. So I was planting these out on August 9th. So it has actually been 2 weeks of them being in the ground. I actually got the second succession in. Maybe I'm spoiling the next episode, but I live in a very warm, weird area. We don't have normal seasons. We can get extremely hot and muggy, just like any place in the South. I've lived in South Florida before, and debatably, Virginia is just as hot and humid in the summertime. Like, I'd almost rather be in Florida in some places than in like Virginia in the middle of the forest. Like, it can be miserable. With that being said, we do not have a normal fall or a normal spring. Things kind of just go like, whoop, and then they just like change overnight. And every year it's different when that change happens. Like, obviously the days are getting shorter. It is getting a little bit more cool, but we can have days in the high 90s in October. I'm not joking. Like, I've looked up the historic weather data for the past 5 years and it's just all over the place. So You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, but I know for a fact that anything that's day length neutral, as in it doesn't rely on like long or short days, can totally grow up until when we have our first frost, as long as I get them started before the end of August. So that's why I'm planting out a lot of marigolds, warm weather things, especially sunflowers, because I know that I can grow them and that they should grow to maturity. They might not be tall, they might not branch as much as they would like a zinnia or a marigold would if I started it in June, but yeah, that's why I'm starting a lot of stuff and still planting things that if you lived in a totally different area than me, but the same zone, you might not be planting. I also have a ton of perennials, biennials, all that stuff that I'm starting, and I'll talk about that in a future episode because I'm very proud of myself. But yeah, I also got stung on this day by a caterpillar, that I've never seen, never heard of. They look really cool, but it hurt, and then it went away. So it wasn't that bad, but do not go looking for these guys, or I guess keep your eyes out for them. My general rule is like don't touch something that's fuzzy, but I didn't even see this one. It was under the leaf of something. So when I went to pull out this celosia to transplant it into a new spot, yeah, it didn't like that. The celosia also 2 weeks later, they're doing great. Happy I did that. But yeah, I thought I would explain where I live a little bit because that might give some context, because we're getting into this period of the year where you just have to start looking ahead, and I definitely am. But with things going the way that they are for me, I'm also giving things a try at this point that you're watching for the rest of the year. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, I live in a weird area. It's been a huge learning curve for me because I see people all the time doing stuff that I then try myself and it totally fails. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I eventually realize it's like, oh, it's not me necessarily. I'm still learning. So I do mess up a lot and I'm still learning. But I also need to get to know where I live, where I grow, and also the microclimates. So like the front of my house and this lot that I'm planting on is a lot sunnier and a lot more warm than the back of my house. And I've learned that over the years, but I did not know that at first. And so where and when and how I plant things might be a little bit different than what you do in your garden and will probably change for me over time. So thanks for planting with me. On to the next. It is Friday. What's that guy? It's Wednesday, my dudes. No, it's Friday. Hopefully tomorrow is the day that the first video of this series comes out. So hopefully that goes well. I haven't posted a video on my YouTube channel in months, but that's not why you're here. Today, I got stung. You can't see because it wasn't that bad, but I got stung by a caterpillar. Maybe 2, I don't know, but it scared me. So I'm kind of like having like, ooh, when I go outside and like I feel something on me, I'm like, ooh. Anyways, I cut a bunch of flowers. Maybe I should make this shot look better. I've cut a bunch of flowers. Here's the deal. So I'm not at the point where I'm like people are like banging down my door for flowers. And I'm trying to find new ways to move flowers in my local business, my local community. I had a scheduled meeting yesterday that did not entirely happen, and it looks like it's not going to be a good fit, but there is another opportunity that's presenting itself that might be a good fit, and that might be something we figure out next week. But on Sunday, after I'm done with the bakery that I do on Sunday, I want to go to another local business and see if they would be open to hosting a bouquet bar either at the end of this month or early next month. So that's the plan for expanding this week. But I just went out and I cut a little bit more because I was looking at what I have and I do not have enough. This week I did not buy from the other local farm near me. I'm just trying to like be as efficient as I possibly can. And this week I happen to have all of the sunflowers that I grew and planted June 21st. Now, I will not have this many extra stems next week because the next succession that I did, that's when things started to eat the sunflowers, and I slowly will have less and less, aka next week I might have like 10 stems. So this is the big sunflower week for me. I went out and I cut some stuff, and I don't have much foliage wise, so I actually cut, and this is from You Can't Eat the Grass, I cut some marigold stems that just I thought would be good foliage wise. They have little buds, so kind of like a spike or an airy accent, if you will, if we're going to be technical. But I also have been cutting this little budlia bush quite a lot. It's a really good, it's hydrating, but it's a really good foliage, I find. It lasts a good amount of time in the vase. It's good for that. I also cut some bactesia that will take some time to hydrate, but I need to get making these bouquets because I want to be in bed soon. But I have my harvest sheet and I am updating it. If you missed last week, I have a harvest sheet and I keep track of what I'm cutting and how much of each and where I get the stems from, because I'm not currently growing everything myself. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Put on my they're broken. My headphones are broken. If I was a cartoon character, these would be a staple in my costume, and they're broken. So you can imagine how devastated I am. 5:35, and I'm starting my bouquets for the week. We're aiming for 10 in 30 minutes. Wouldn't that be awesome? I don't know. Yes. So I thought I would talk a little bit about the business side of things. That's something that's always fascinated me with flower farming, and being someone who has almost 5 years of experience running a business and what that's like. I'm trying to take the lessons that I've learned from that business and apply them to this one. And one of the biggest things I've learned from watching a lot of flower farmers and just diving into the world of flower farming in general is this idea of profitability. So that is like top of mind, which is why I do a lot of the documenting, like with my harvest sheets and even with these videos, and I keep track of the time that I'm spending. So I have a pretty good idea on like how much I would need to bring in to begin to quote pay myself. But yeah, I just wanted to say that. And I think at the same time, I was thinking about this metaphor of like when you see a kid, or like your own, if you look back on your own like handwriting from grade school or elementary school, like when you're first learning how to hold a pencil and how to spell words and that letters go in certain places in certain words. My first handwriting, you spell things backwards, you miss letters, you substitute the wrong things, versus like my handwriting today. I think that could be a good metaphor for like learning how to do gardening or flower farming or business. Like the first iterations of it are never going to be what the finished product is. I hope that makes sense. I have some pretty big ideas and goals for my garden, but this is the first stage. Consider this the messy handwriting stage. I'm having fun. I think that's really important. This was a good week. I'm happy with the numbers that I brought in, and I'm happy with the opportunities that are presenting themselves for me. So, spoiler alert, next week is pretty good as far as opportunities go that I'm very excited to share. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you want to see more, be sure to like and subscribe. Kind of a mini series that I'm doing. So there will be like a number of episodes, and then I'm hoping to switch into another mini series. But if you want me to keep doing it, let me know. I'd love your input and your advice. I live in Zone 7B. If you live in South Central Virginia and you also grow flowers, let me know. Hit me up. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. That's it. That's the clip. That's all I needed. That's a wrap, boys. That's a wrap.